I am so honored to have you on the podcast. And I, yeah, have been looking forward to having this conversation with you. I feel that the time that we're in right now, there is more spirituality coming into the conversation. So I feel that this conversation with you is really potent and really needed, especially in a time I feel where spiritual leaders or the ones that are leading us can sometimes misguide us. And all over the years, I've been really on the journey with you and just loving your not only your rebellion, but you leading from the heart and really walking your talk. And so, yeah, I'd love to know where your energy is at the moment and yeah, how you're feeling in this current energy.
Beautiful. Thank you, Tara. It is such a potent time, potent time. And, I would even say the reason that we took a body for is right now. And we can feel this quickening, it's like right before the birth. It's like we're here and the energy is quickening. And there are, systems coming down and beliefs that are being completely collapsed. And I think one of the things that you're speaking to being, one of the, we'll say, genetics that came in with this awareness is that in my experience, everything in this realm has been reversed. And that includes the information of the New Age spiritual information. So it's almost, and this isn't our fault. It's by design. It's as if everything that existed here has been reversed to subvert our power, to keep us in the slumber and really keep us suppressed because we are used for other factions of, I would say, a non-affirming life or anti-life frequencies that are using our heart, our emotion, our empathy, our knowing, our beauty, our creativity, our power, because there is nothing more powerful than a human being that knows itself. And yet we have incarnated into this realm. This is the nature of the realm. This is the nature of the play. But this is the moment that this status quo for thousands of years is over. It's just not its time anymore. It's not anyone's fault. It's not that, humans are so low or we're so dumb or, whatever the thing is. It's just that this is the moment that the realm shifts and it's a new frequency. It is not like any other time in history. It is this planetary precession and opening that is described by many different lineages, and of course in the yugas and in Vedic lineage. But again, I'm not really. I am led through my heart intelligence. I'm sort of a breadcrumb type of being. Like I get, I'll just be walking down the street and then I'll be like, oh my gosh, like a bluebird has just landed inside my purse, but that's all I'll know for the moment until I keep walking and walking and walking. And then that will link to another clue and that will link to another clue. So I think maybe where we've been resonating, even though it's the first time that we're actually speaking to each other, not even in person, but on Zoom. So, but is this sovereign reclamation of our own knowing. And so, what I realized after many years in this lifetime is that the most important thing is the perspective. And so, if you ask me a question, if I'm a Palladian from the star system of Pleiades, I'm going to answer it in that frequency. And that's a generalization because there's different stars in that constellation, but let's just use it for example. In my experience, if I ask a Mayan elder, he's going to respond from that frequency. If I talk to my galactic emissary, she's going to reply from that frequency. If you talk to a Lakota Sioux chief, he's going to give you that. So it's what is the life form that you are embodying as a fragment of the one. And so that led me to the awareness that the most important perspective is your own. It is your own. And I love the Vedic Jyotish science that gives us this map of our own design. And so for me, it's been a cherished companion, although I use it loosely, very loosely, because like everything, nothing is a complete science. Something's been taken out, something's been reversed, something's been manipulated. But oh, the beauty of the Vedic sort of predisposition of the life that gives you a starting point to then find your way, verify, overcome certain things. So anyway, that's kind of the overall perspective. And specifically right now, me personally, I've been being drawn home in every single aspect of the meaning of that frequency. So in my meditations, in my embodiment, I feel a level of presence that I never have felt before. And a recollection of the little girl that was 6 years old, the things that were naturally dear, these sort of spiral time homecomings, weavings of these parts. I feel that being connected to the supreme intelligence of the heart is your guiding mechanism. Your body intelligence will tell you. It will tell you where you're going, where you're not going, when you're going, when you're not going. And it's a feeling intelligence. It's not an intellectual. So when I hear people giving dates and predictions, in my experience, it's always wrong. You will never know, and you will know in the moment what the right action is. So I feel like we're right before some sort of opening into another perspective of evolution. It's a big one, and that's mirrored in the genocide, in the horror, destruction, and also the expansive beauty. If you have the ability to see the cosmic realms, there is evidence of life affirming energies that have reclaimed our realm. And so these energies of war, these energies of genocide, they will not persist. They will not live. They will not continue. There will be no World War III. It's like, this is them freaking out, the anti-life freaking out because their time is up. So that's some perspectives I can offer.
I love that. Thank you, Julie. I resonate with so much of that, especially this different, I guess, timeline that you've offered. And I've been looking more into the yagyas in terms of the ages, the planetary cycles that life goes through. And it's interesting that that timeline that is offered is quite different to the religious dogma timeline that we have been offered. And I really feel like you're speaking to an element of that where there is a different timeline that we can be projecting, and that it isn't set in stone, and we have the ability to tap into our potential and start being the creators of our reality. And that is why I connect so much to your teachings, because they're always bringing you back to reclaiming the self and reclaiming our memories and those different lifetimes that we have had. And so I just, yeah, I really love that there's that different timeline, and it is not one that, well, lately I haven't been connecting to, that it is one of continued destruction, that there is that opportunity for more light, more awareness, more, spirituality. And I'm seeing that more and more now, where we can have these deeper conversations. And I love that you speak about connecting to the heart. And it's interesting to me, if you rearrange the letters of earth, it is heart. And I think that is, everything that we are incarnating here for, this ability to, yeah, really remember our light and how powerful we are.
Mhm. Beautiful. Yes. I uh these this experience that we are all participating in, that we are all contributing to, we are creating it in the moments of our conscious awareness together, individually, as groups, and as a collective. And yes, that exact thing of remembering that we are creators, that we are the ones that are bringing this Christed vision. And when I say Christ, I don't mean Christian, I mean the Christic vision. The great work is to hold the appearance of the highest vibration despite all appearances to the contrary. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm in denial. I'm not walking around with my head in the sand, not acknowledging the horrors and like stuff that, the gnarly murder, you know, sexual predator, program, the annihilation, the suppression of the feminine, all kinds of things, the destruction of our planet, I'm not in denial about that. I'm focused on that. However, it's a choice. The great work is to shift the consciousness, because it's a war over consciousness, and especially now on our devices, because we're able to watch these horrific, brutal happenings in real time in our beloved humanity and other geographic locations. The great work is to be the master of your consciousness. And so there is a time to scream and cry and wail and grieve and, protest. And there is a time to create, to be the creator of the more beautiful world that you wish to find. And everything is transformed in the moment. And so we all have our moment to choose how we utilize our consciousness, where we place our consciousness. And so standing by, watching the fire and calling out fire, 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 does not create the expression of the eternal palace, of the of the divine, of the beauty, of the unconditional love, and the celebration of diversity, and all these things. So we all have our place. Every life form is different, but so it's that is the work. That is the work. And so in the moments, there is an opportunity for great evolution, great expansion, and really cultivating that energy. That's why many times the meditators, deep meditation and being able to tap into that field amplifies that frequency. So, I feel like one of the gifts of this very potent time is, spiritual connection is not going to be an extra. It's going to be absolutely required, because we are all spiritual beings having a human experience. Of course, it's a choice. We are all potentially divine if that is what you choose. And there's no judgment. Like, I don't think, the sun doesn't care if you're religious or spiritual or an atheist or anything. It's simply a choice of life experience. So anyway.
Yes, I love that. I love the that you speak so much about that presence. And I feel that way with karma. So, in that moment, how we're choosing to respond to whatever is coming towards us is that opportunity for us to really sidestep into a different pathway. And so I would love for you to speak, Julie, on your concept of the multi-dimensional realities, and that there is this potential for us to be living at different timelines. Because what has been coming up to for me recently is I experienced a very visceral past life, and I wasn't even in a meditative state or anything like this. And it was in the Egyptian times. And just having that past life experience actually healed this. I was having, for the last 2 years, I was having really intense sweats. And going back into this past life was able to really shift that for me. And it was almost as if this concept of when we heal our past, we're healing our present and potentially our future. So then I've been playing with this concept of perhaps we can tap into the future higher vibrational self, and potentially are we tapping into that consciousness, and that is available to us if our past lives are impacting us. I would love to know your thoughts on that.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, I mean, I'd love to know more details about your experience and how that came about. Was it so when you say it wasn't when you were in meditation, can you just share like how did the memory come?
Yeah, definitely. About 2 years ago, I was actually in a meditation. It was on a full moon, and I was in a very deep meditation. And that is when I first had the experience of being in a past life in ancient Egypt, in the Library of Alexandria. And it was when it was in destruction. And that was quite an emotional experience. I'd never experienced a past life before. And then this recent time that was very healing was I was reading a book, and it actually just mentioned the burning of the library. And I was in that moment. It was like it transported me back into that time. And I was this record keeper in the library as it was burning, and I was trying to read as much as I could before. Um, yeah, that is, and the healing was me being in the fire, and what I was working through the past couple of years is night sweats. And I went to every Western Eastern doctor, and there was like my bloods, my everything was perfect, and they couldn't understand. And so it's just been this really interesting experience because I never realized that something in the past could physically affect us in this current reality. So it's been a very interesting experience for me.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. So yeah, so many things to sort of share about that. So in my own experience, I worked with a mentor who was in his late 70s, and he was, I would call him an occult master. Occult. Occult means hidden, for anybody listening. So he started to teach me a type of multidimensional healing work. And it's kind of similar to like a modern shamanism, like the type of healing that I do. I don't ever touch anyone, and I actually prefer to work with someone who's not in my space. I don't do personal sessions because it allows me to transport it easier, you know, without the physical person in front of me. But one of these experiences that he shared with me, which was hugely impactful, speaking to your your awareness of traumas traveling through timelines. So he had a client who came to him who had her legs were deteriorating, and she had this weird disease, and she'd been to all these doctors and they didn't know what was happening, and they couldn't explain it. And so she came to him for one session, and then she came back for a second session. And in the second session, she told him that she had been driving in a car following her husband, her beloved, and she had watched him get um, cut in half by a semi trailer right before her. And she was the first one on the scene of the accident, and it literally sliced him in half. So what had happened is his energy, because she's his love and she has this open heart, and she arrives on the scene and he's been in this accident, he attached into her and his energy was not free. And so after a year, her body started to exhibit the same energy of this trauma. Now, my teacher did 2 more sessions and her legs repaired themselves and the soul was set free, and that was fine. So that's sort of like one dial click beyond it being you, right? That was a loved one. But we can look at these aspects of ourselves as loved ones. I mean, being reconnected with these identities is much like retrieving a lover. It's an aspect of yourself. And so one of the things that I have sort of mentored in Water Tiger, my spiritual community, is this awareness that we are 12 different simultaneous identities that are all sourcing into one, the unified 13th. And that's what this life is about. Why 12? I just have a knowing. 13 has always been the number that has guided my life, because 13 means the number of unity. And I know that in this lifetime, we are collecting identities of ourselves and like amalgam, putting them into one, integrating, make an amalgam of all these different experiences. And you will start to maybe retrieve these in a very visceral way. You could have, for instance, I always could dance. I always was a natural dancer. I didn't take dance, but I always could dance. It was never like, oh, I don't know how to do that. That's one of my identities. I've always wore hats and ponchos. It's part of it's not an outfit for me. It is part of who I am. It's completely natural. One of my identities is an Argentinian horseman. I'm a horse whisperer in Argentina in a certain time space. I'm a priestess of a fire in ancient Greece. I've been doing fire ceremonies for years, and I have immense power with that element. I've conjured rain. Like all kinds of stuff have happened, and it's natural to the human being, but it's a memory that I've retrieved for me. So knowing also that I have so many incarnations in the Vedic lineage, many, 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 it just allows you to start to understand, oh, wait a second, like I'm so much more than Tara in this human body, in this relationship, in this vocation, or whatever it is you're expressing. And so what I would suggest people do is start to take note of the things that you love, the things that you have an interest in. And these things are really, really important to your embodiment, for your reclamation of the memories. And yes, these affect past and future, because outside of this realm, there is no past and future. There's only now. So simultaneous embodiments, no past or future, only now. So yes, reclaiming the memories affects all that perspective within that spiral time. And as a creative, as an artist, it's a glorious way to live when your view, I mean, for me, it's like, someone could say, oh, well, I don't believe you, that's not true, or, how does she know that, or whatever. Well, okay, it's fine, but I'm having a lot of fun. Like I have a lot of fun, and I have a lot of bandwidth. So it's like, in my experience, better to think my way. I just knew, I was like, wait a second. I was like, we're just here, and we get married and we get a station wagon and we have some kids and we drive around and we have a shitty job. I was like, can't be, just can't, it has to be more than that. So I think it's a profound time, and as a human being, we are time beings, meaning we time travel.
Mm.
And if anybody isn't clear about that, you can just close your eyes and take yourself to a memory anywhere in this planet, on another planet, in any identity. You are the master of your own consciousness, potentially, if you're not being led around by someone else's narrative. And so our consciousness is profound, profound, profound. And when we go to sleep at night, we leave our bodies. You know, the body is sleeping, but we're out. And that's why many times, you know, you just wake up and you can't get back in your body, or you have this feeling or this, you know, essence that you've been in another time space. Or so the human being is a complex, eternal, angelic form, a Christic form. And we are much more than we know, much, much more than we know.
I love that, Julie. And just as you were speaking, I had the honor to look into your chart. And the first thing that I notice, I always look at the fifth house, which is connected to sort of like which you would be familiar with, our past life credit, and you having Jupiter in there, the guru. And so coming into this incarnation with so much wisdom already, so much knowledge. And just as you're speaking, I was just, yeah, smiling to myself because there's so many aspects of your chart that you are just deeply living. And looking at your chart, it's another layer of so much more love for you as well, because there's just so many beautiful elements of it. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with you. And I on this topic, Julie, with these multi-dimensional lives and our infinite potential. I have always loved over the years how you have spoken about the sacred death process. And I myself have experienced this with my own mother passing, and you shared with me very recently that your mum has passed. And so, on this tender topic, I would really love to, yeah, just take this moment and celebrate her life. And also, I would love to know what is what is on your heart with the passing process, and how do you see these as, again, talking about these narratives that our society wants to have around, you know, things like death. I'd really love to know your perspective.
Thank you so much, Tara. Yeah, so my mom, so we're recording this on Friday. My mom had her sacred transition on Tuesday evening, so it's been a few days. My mom was 96 years old. I had a really beautiful relationship with my mother. She was incredibly generous being, very generous, very independent, very creative and full of life. And you know, she wasn't like the perfect mom in the way of like doting with me, but we had a very fine, very beautiful wellness between us. We were just good. Like it didn't require like all that much. Like we were clear. We were clear from the very beginning. And she just, what she really taught me was generosity. And that's what I've been sitting with. I did a lot of grieving for my mother over the past years. My father died in about 8 years ago, and it was my father that I had all the conflict with. You know, he was an NRA member, a hunter. You know, he couldn't understand why I was practicing yoga, thought I was in a cult. You know, why the elephant god? You know, why are you vegan? Like, how could you be vegan? You know, I mean, he was an engineer. So he was 2 + 2 = 4, Julie. He'd be like, hello, 2 + 2 is 4. And I'd be like, Dad, 2 + 2 is 22. And it would make him insane. And so I did. And also, I was quite rebellious. So I was, pushing the button, whenever I felt appropriate type of thing. And I was definitely much more sexualized than, he wanted his daughter to be at a young age. I was very precocious. And so he preferred my sister. Like that was his, that was sort of what he felt good with. But we also shared a love of nature. I used to take flying lessons with him. I have 10 hours on my logbook. He was a pilot, a hunter. I mean, I've gone flying with him in this tin can to Cedar Plain, like by Mount McKinley in Alaska. And I had a tremendous respect for him because he was a real Indiana Jones type guy. He mapped the jungles of the Amazon. He would all of his vacation time would be spent in the bush, flying out, landing on a glacier. And my mom was living, in town, had a fashion boutique. My mom was from Chile, from Santiago, Chile. And he had met her there and then brought her back to the United States. So they were a very adventurous couple. They were married their whole life, had 5 kids. And my dad, much to my surprise at the end of his life, he just was done living. He was 92 years old, and he called me and said, I just want to tell you that you've been a really good daughter. And I was like, Dad, that's so nice of you. Like, that's incredible that you would give me that. And I was good. Like, I had already written him lots of letters saying you're the perfect dad for me and whatever. But for him to say it was really sweet. And he said, I'm going to be going soon. He wasn't sick at all, but he was just done. And I said, Dad, I'll do everything I can to help you die. And he said, thank you. And so when the time came, his heart sort of dropped. They admitted him to the hospital. And for some reason, I was alone with him for like a half a day. I started disconnecting his energetic systems. And then we went back to his room. He was, out of it in a, sleep state. And then they said, you can go home. His organs are shutting down and we're going to release you home. So I said, Dad, we can leave. And he sat up and he said, get my clothes. So I gave him his clothes. And then I said, you haven't eaten in a bit. So do you want to have some applesauce? And he goes, yeah. And so here I am on the hospital bed, feeding him applesauce. He had blue eyes. And all of a sudden, the ancient one was sitting inside of him looking at me. I'm feeding the ancient one applesauce inside my dad. And like every hair on my body stood up. It's indescribable experience. It's like that eye of the whale. It was that, that consciousness. So anyway, we ended up taking him home and we sang in his room and held vigil. And we were with him when he took his last breath. And I was like, Dad, you're going on the greatest expedition of your life. And of anyone I know, you know how to go on an expedition. So, using the terms like, I love you, well done, congratulations on an amazing life. Thank you for everything, for all the experience. And when he took his last breath, we bathed the body in rose water. I had created an altar to my parents, and my sister and I swaddled his body in this beautiful cloth and then sprinkled rose petals around his head and swaddled him. And then at the end, I put my mala around his head. So here was this NRA, totally not into the yogi thing. And then at the end, I just knew, and I had asked my mother, and she said, just do what you do, honey, just do what you know how to do. And
Mm.
And I had to laugh because I had this water from the Ganges River. My friend Deb had been to the mouth of the Ganges and brought me back a vial. So as he died, his mouth was open, and so I poured the water in his mouth as his last drink with earth, and his mouth just started to close and close and close and close, and it was in a soft smile. And so my dad died like a in samadhi, like a samadhi state, and I had to pull the car over and laugh my butt off for the next 3 months, because it was like, I know a lot of spiritual people. I know gurus, I know teachers, I know shamans. This man was not supposed to have this experience, and he did. And so from that experience, it was incredibly freeing, because I sort of dropped any last judgment of anything.
Mm.
Like, no matter what anybody's doing, I'm like, we don't even know who anyone is. You have no idea who anyone is. If in order to have the movie, someone's got to play, the different flavors, the different colors of the movie, right? So this was a huge teaching for me. And in his death, he's been more with me, just in the way I live my life, my work with Dom and her and the indigenous. My dad served the indigenous for 47 years in Anchorage, Alaska. He built all their schools, art museums, hospitals. So my mom, we thought she was going to go pretty soon afterwards, and it's been 8 years. She has been just an expression of gratitude, of resilience. She became not immobile, not able to move. So she's been in a bed for maybe a year and a half or 2 years. And her perspective is always lemonade. She said to me a couple weeks ago, Julie, this bed is so comfortable, you just don't want to get out. And I just laugh. And then she also had this like alternate experience where she had another marriage with another man. Let's talk about timelines. So, and people in the 3D, they call it, oh, she has dementia, and they go into the whole explanation. Well, my mom took only 2 pills a day that were, very benign. And she had a whole reality that was with her for about 10 months. So she knew the man's name. He had a plane outside the house. They were taking, orphan children down to Chile. She knew exactly where her house was, exactly what it looked like, and so, who's to say? And within this experience, it was a very rich inner life, because she was still having life experience, even though she couldn't walk around or she couldn't go places.
Mm.
So in the end, we had shared everything, and she loves my jewelry, my dominarian jewelry. I have big rings and bracelets, and she did too. And so every time I came in, first thing she'd say, let me see your bracelet, let me see your ring. And I would buy her really beautiful rings whenever I would travel, and always take them to her. And right when she was passing, she opened her eyes and was staring into my eyes. And right before she passed, she shifted her gaze and clocked my bracelet in my ring. And it's also a spiritual technology from Dom and her, which there's a frequency that assists. So on many levels, it was like my friend Brian was like, she was like, last looks before I go. But also giving me the nod of this frequency to assist her. And so when she receded into the gap, I was staring into her eyes, and all the rest of her family were there. And I just smiled, and I was like, you did it. Like, you did it. So, I know she's my mom. And, people have shared with me that I'll go through these sort of different feelings, but, I don't know if I'm going to, because we had the blessing that it was her time, and I had so much time with her.
Mm.
And so I think that in death, really being conscious that it is a birth into more life. It's a birth into more life. It's what it is. Understanding when we have uncontrollable feelings of grief and suffering, this ties our loved ones to this realm. It's not easy to get out of this realm. It's not as simple as, oh, they pass and they're in a better place and it's done. Oh, it's a journey. It's a journey. So what we can do, excuse me, is we can create altars to our loved ones. We can send them the energies of, I'm with you. You got this. I believe in you. I trust you. I thank you. Well done. See these type of energies, almost as if I was going to jump out of an airplane and I was afraid of heights.
Mm,
If everybody's standing around going, fuck, like, no, it's like,
mm,
that's not helping. But what's helping is that I trust you. I believe in you. Like, you're going to do this. It's like we need to shift that energy that we give each other and also bring back the awareness of death as sacred passage. We're all going to have that portal. And in a way, collectively, we're in that portal right now. It's a birth, death, birth. So same sides of the coin, same sides of the experience. I mean, different sides of the same experience. But I think taking back that power too, and understanding that you don't need me or a priest or a guru or anybody to tell you how to do it. Use your intuition and make a ritual and honor the body and honor your loved ones and find out what else you can do. We keep the body as long as we can. There's many things. I think there's even some offerings into the earth. Her choice is cremation, which is my choice. But it's a beautiful life that we have, a privilege to be alive. And the other thing I want to just mention too is this form of the Grail. So throughout eons of time, the Grail, which is the most holy experience that we have available to us, it is not definable, mutable, cannot be manipulated, quantified, anything. It is beyond description. This Grail was visualized as that which existed inside the sacred chalice, which is what we have sought for eons of time. And Falco Tarasico, who is the founder of Dom and Her Spiritual Community, of which I'm an initiate, he brought in 2008 that the Grail would change form with regards to this realm. And the Grail now is in the form of illness. And so if anyone is facing a diagnosis of any intensity, if you have an ailment, if your body is in disease, if you are transitioning into more life, consider that you are sitting with the holiest of the holy. The highest holy is sitting within you. And by having this perspective, you can truly be in this sacred bhava of meaning, of spiritual connection. So living a spiritual life means applying meaning to everything. What greater meaning could you have than if your body is in an imbalance, to know that you are being visited by the highest force that exists? So as we evolve, sometimes the bodies will drop because the body has to have a certain level of technology in order to move with the quickening of the light frequencies. Not all of us will stay. Some of us will drop the body, but all of us will be guided into an ascension process that is in alignment with our own evolution, our own piece of the mirror. And so to understand, the transition is not the end. It is not a defeat. It is a triumph of life. And these are some of the awarenesses that that I feel are being brought back, to many of us very powerfully.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Julie. I, yeah, so much. That sacred death process and seeing it in such a beautiful lens. And I love how you speak about that, keeping that energy clear and that opportunity that you see in death to for that expansion. And I think that, in society, it's really still, outcast, and, we don't want to look there. And for bringing that light onto it as and I love having this conversation because it's taken me years to get to this place of seeing it as a celebration rather than something, completely horrific on, for those that are left, and seeing it as, yeah, like you say. And I think that is such an important point about with the releasing and the passing of the soul, how important it is to, um, yeah, safeguard that process and really give them a beautiful send off. So wherever that soul is going, it's like I see it as a springboard, giving them that courage to, yeah, and like really release those fears. So thank you for, yeah, really diving into that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Um, it's it's really curious how in our culture we just act like it's never going to happen or something. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just it's not intelligent at all. Like there's no preparation. People don't even know what to say. Like in my
Mm,
history of the fact that I've been more comfortable with it and speaking about it, it's like, some people can't even face it or don't even know, how to move or what to do. And so throughout the years I've supported people by, letting them know, like imagine a blue light, like, because you're like, somebody died, what do I do? Well, there's nothing, you feel quite helpless. What
mm,
you can do is bathe them in this frequency of blue, of calm, and again, it's what consciousness are you expressing around them, and it's that sort of support. So we can be, vessels of support and love and friendship. But we can't do that if we have no idea what we're doing and we're just caught up in our own grief. And, listen, this is very different. My parents were both very old. We lived a long life together. But I've also experienced, my close friend's death of her 4-year-old. I lost my boy's father as well. So, it's different, obviously, at different ages, it hits differently.
mm,
But ultimately, in the eyes of the sacred, it is all divine. It
mm,
is all divine.
mm. Thank you, Julie. I recently heard Dr. Zach Bush say that we're more afraid of the aging process and to give that much more thought than the dying process. And following your journey, Julian, what I've drawn inspiration from you is the graceful, and this is, I can see so many elements of your Libra rising here in the beauty and the Venus that is emanating through you. Um, how I would love to know your thoughts on beauty again, another narrative of, I feel, disempowerment for the woman. Um, how have you navigated so gracefully? And, you probably have better words around the aging process, but I would love to know your experience and, yeah, your thoughts on this.
Yeah, thank you. Huge topic. Yeah, and I agree with Zach a lot on that. I mean, it's kind of comical, right? We can chuckle about that one. Well, first of all, I want to say that I care very much about beauty. I'm an artist and I love beautiful things. I love beautiful spaces. I care very much about what I wear, what I look like. It's very important to me in my brand and everything that I do. So I'm not a renunciate. I'm not shaving my head, and I'm not, I considered it in some stage. I was like, maybe what if I shaved my head and then put on like orange robes? And I was like, oh well, that's also an outfit as well. you know. But I think one of the most beautiful things to understand is that beauty, living a beautiful life, is one of the first tenets of spirituality. So we are sensory beings. We feel and emote and taste and touch and experience and even sensuality and all these different things. And so I'm not saying, I'm saying I embody beauty. Okay, so then um, the difference is not chasing an idea of beauty that has been advertised and broadcasted, which is in the psyche of all women on this planet and has been for eons of time. In my youth, it was my, my sort of image that I had to deal with was like the supermodels in Gianni Versace, in Vogue or Elle, and then the really bad, advice one was Cosmo, which had nothing useful in it. But that was who I was comparing myself to. Today on Instagram, it's just like, oh my goodness, like how does one even get out of bed in the morning? Who knows? And there's all this metrics on the negative effect on our children. I have two young daughters as well who have been subject to this narrative, and it's been very, very trying as a parent to navigate through that. But what I would say is being so aligned within yourself and being courageous enough to look at what is. So going to the mirror and sitting in the mirror and entering into a meditation technique where you are gazing at the third eye center and see what arises, see what identities come in, and starting to understand that we are such complex life forms that are living in different time space, that the desired aesthetic of the feminine is not one tone. It's not one lip size or one, or like your face doesn't move at all. I take care of my skin. I have a team that helps me. It's not like I don't do anything. But I don't do anything that is stopping the expression on my face or some foreign body that's going to travel to my nose and I'm going to have two noses or whatever that deal is. I mean, when we get to that level, it takes on something that is not, it's just not the most beautiful. It's not the most powerful way to be. And so for many, many years, I had this lie that was living inside of me that was telling me that when I got to be at a certain age, I would be discarded and traded for a younger model. And that lie terrorized me. It was living in my frequency. And so I did a self-healing maybe 12, I don't know, 10 years ago maybe. And I rescinded participation with that lie. Also turned to the Vedas and spoke to my Swami, who reminded me that the most creative point in a female's life and a feminine life is after childbearing years. Yet this realm has completely annihilated us and turned it around. And you have women telling you that are my age. I'm 61. Women that are my age tell everyone they feel invisible, discarded, not cared for, like all these things. And these are the women that are holding the immense wisdom, the real beauty, the depth, the knowing of all these years. And these are the women that we need to come back and pick up some of these pieces and create a new form with them. So it's that one lie that I think is really, really insidious inside the feminine form, because it's a self-fulfilling lie. Like if you keep your focus on that, I'm 61 and if you're lucky and you're blessed, you guys are going to be 61 someday too. So it's a matter of can we rewrite what it means to be beautiful? And sometimes the most beautiful objects in art, in design, are the ones that are vintage, the ones that have the age, the wear, the aging, the refinement, like a fine wine, a fine object. It's just not the same as the young, as just the young in years. Um, that being said, I always found the death process on this planet to be very unnatural. And in my galactic perspective, the death program has been superimposed on only this realm. So the human being in its natural state is an eternal life form.
Mm.
So maybe that's why it feels so not right to us. Like somehow we know. When I was younger, I used to think, oh, I'm gonna die young. Because I was just never down with the whole thing. And part of my mom's choice to be in the bed and to stay this long, it wasn't my style, like I would say like, wow, this death experience, you cannot guess it. Like, why are young children dying? And she's been ready for like 6 years, and she wasn't afraid, she wasn't grasping, she just, her wasn't her time. You know what I mean? Like, you can't predict it. So I think in beauty, I always say in Water Tiger, one of my most famous quotes is, there is nothing more beautiful than a being that knows itself.
Mm.
And you will see that awareness, the power, the presence of a being that knows itself is absolutely intoxicating, irresistible. Fall down on the floor, magnificently beautiful. So it's not about a certain, having your lips pumped up to be a certain, size, or Botoxing yourself so your face doesn't move, or, that's not really it. The beauty is much more multidimensional than that. And then I also joke with my water tigers, because as you're doing this mirror gazing, and sometimes you'll see other identities come in, and you're like, oh, is that me? And it literally looks like an alien from another star system with like, a nose on your forehead, or like so I'm like, oh, you don't like yourself? Like, there's a lot worse versions, like from a human standpoint. It's like, oh, you could look like this gray alien. How's that? So we always laugh about that. It's like, and the other thing is a wisdom that my mom Vilna, we called her Abuela because she was from Chile. But Abuela would say, she'd say, I wish I had been kinder to myself when I looked at my photos. Because as she aged, she would look back and say, I was beautiful. But at the age that you're looking at the photo, you just criticize and say, I hate it, or I don't, it's like whatever we do as humans. So be kind to yourself. Understand that the body that you're in is performing a miraculous operation without participation from your personality, from your intellect. You have nothing to do with it. So getting into the awareness that you are a sacred life form, and start worshiping your body as a temple.
Mm.
And after that, really, really honor who you are, and thank your body. Thank you, I love you. Thank you, I love you. Thank you, I love you. And there's always going to be somebody younger than you are, and there's always going to be somebody prettier than you are. Probably a bunch of people prettier than you are. There's always going to be that, but it's like, that's irrelevant, because your life is the most important life that you're living. And I mean, just seeing you, and you have such a galactic look to you. Like, you have such a galactic presence. And it's seen. I can see it through you the second that I saw you. So you are a very magnificent life form, a magnificent form that you're living in. What a beauty, and so a lot more reverence for our bodies is how you bring out what is beautiful, what is truly beautiful inside of you. And it won't be that your lips were perfect, or your face didn't move. That won't be what touched somebody. In fact, that stops the energy from coming through. And I tried a a little bit of Botox after my fourth child was born. I was just beat up. And I went, they were like, "Oh, we want to give you, 4." I was like, "No, no, no, just give me a half, like right here on my crow's feet or whatever." I couldn't feel my third eye for 8 days. I
Mm.
was like, "Oh my God." Like they have literally lobotomized. I don't even know if that's true, but they there's no deadening. You have no feeling in your third eye. And I was like, "Oh my God." Like it's another agenda to shut down our power. And I want to look pretty. I want you to look pretty. I want us all to look pretty. Like I'm not anti-beauty, but let's choose it in a more meaningful way. And that was part of my journey, letting my hair grow out gray. Um, I had been dyeing it since I was young, super young, and always a brunette like you. So I had this identity as, oh, I'm a brunette. And then when I took the color out, I had to go platinum blonde, which was a complete universal joke because I mean, I have plenty of blonde friends that I adore and love, but I'm just like, that's not who I am. So I had a whole new subset of like men asking me for my number. Like it was there was a whole other world, like being a blonde, right? And not graceful, considered shaving my head because I thought my hair was going to fall out. But finally, I got it to this natural state. And I would have given you all my money in the bank that it was white as Santa Claus. That's what I thought was going to grow in. And it's got all these different colors in it. It even turns a little blonde on its own just from the elements. I don't touch it at all. And it's like, can't we rewrite the story of our feminine journey and stop taking these lies that have been given us by, I'll say the patriarchy or the male presence or, come on. And I will say too, one of my dear friends, I won't name her by name, but she's 70. She is having more sex than any of my 25-year-old friends that I know. It is hilarious. She got divorced a few years ago. Husband, cheated on her, not cool. And she is literally like, I don't know, she's had 20 lovers since that time. And so we just howl. Like I'm just laughing like how amazing that is. So remember, it's all a perspective. And it's not that everybody wants that experience, but it's an energy. It's
Mm.
a frequency. And remember, we're moving beings. So we're light color energy beings. Energy is moving. So anyway, just a little bit on that.
Thank you so much for that very empowering lens. Yeah, it's so beautiful to get your full thoughts on that and, describing that beauty frequency. And I think that's important to acknowledge as well, Julie, how it's not all or nothing in the fact that, that beauty is really important to you. And I think that is the feminine, that we're craving those beautiful, sensual elements in our life. And we can still want that, but still hold the um more of that depth of wisdom. And I feel that as I've gotten older, that is something that I've really wanted to bring out because I feel that aging process, there's such that focus on that physicality, and we're forgetting that we're holding all this wisdom. And I remember my mum saying to me that she would never go back to my age where I was maybe in my 20s. And it always seemed so foreign to me. I was like, why wouldn't you? And now I can understand, being in my late 30s, I can understand that because the wisdom and what you're able to access at this age is, yeah, something that as a society, I don't think we give enough importance to. So I love that. And very much in the Ayurveda, it's very much about, preserving and, those techniques where we can, yeah, really look after ourselves. And I think that is very much what you embody. I love seeing that you love your Pilates, and, you're very much into your beauty rituals. And so I think that it's important that we're acknowledging that beauty is important, but doesn't have to be a certain way. And I love how you said it is a frequency. So thank you so much for that, Julie.
Yes.
Um, I just have one more question, Julie. I would love to know your journey with Shrimu, your high vibrational um, cheese that is not cheese. I would love to know the creative process of this. And it was very interesting when I was again looking at your chart, not giving too much away, but where your Cancer placement was, it made a lot of sense to me that part of the Dharma is connected to food and to cooking. And so especially in this time, going back to the Yagyas, just coming into this Kali Yuga, which uh, there's this saying that we get all our prana from our food in Kali Yuga. And so I would love to know, yeah, your thoughts on the creative process of what you have been able to create. And is it going to be available in Australia anytime soon?
That's amazing. I hadn't heard that about the pranic access through the food and the Kali Yuga. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. I actually have one other question too that I don't know if you'll have time, but I want to ask you after this. So we'll see. You'll let me know. But so the I would say that creating food was never on any of my vision boards. I never related to it. I'm a Cancer in both Vedic and Western. I can cook for 2 people or 50 people. It was never a thing. I can just do it spontaneously. It's a very creative act for me, and it's based on smell and what I see. And I never followed a recipe or anything, but I never knew that I would come in my life to have authored 3 plant-based cookbooks. I've created over 400 plant-based recipes. And it all started as a love offering to my current partner, Rich Roll. He was training for a race called Ultraman, which is a double Ironman race. And I was recording music and don't really care about sports. And I had no idea what he was doing. And we had this agreement he could train if when he came home, then I could go make music. So he came in, I handed him a baby, and he kind of told me as we were passing, do you understand I just ran a marathon? And I was like, actually, no. I had no idea. I just saw the door open and close, and then he'd come back, open, close. I have tons of kids and whatever. So I made that decision that I would just love him because it was really easy for me and I knew it meant a lot to him. So that was the beginning of our plant-based food um, food world that we've been in. And then I cracked the code on plant-based cheese. I mean, my European friends were begging me for the cheese, and I knew when I was hearing like congratulations from my Swiss friends, or my French friends were eating it, then I kind of knew, okay, I've really connected with something. And as an artist, I'm always doing the thing that's not scalable. It's like I haven't lived my life thinking about business ideas that are scalable. But finally, after enough hours making food, hundreds of hours, I created this plant-based cheese collection that is literally divine. It's the next evolution of cheese. It's universal, paleo, keto, dairy-free, gluten-free, plant-rich. It is such high vibration, pure ingredients, and rivals dairy cheese, and it's better for your body, the animals, the planet, our children. So it is an expression of heart and art. I named it SriMu as a play on divine cow, but also connecting it to me as a mother frequency and having this chart of people wanting frequency from me. So I named it Shri, my spiritual name being SriMati, Ma Ananda SriMati. So Shri the graphic was better MU, and also Mu being the name of our ancient Lemuria, where so many of us lived in creativity and beauty. So there was a sort of a few nods, and it's a black label. It's shipped in a beautiful box, and I've recently moved my facility to Memphis, Tennessee. So I have my production facility in a vertical community called Crosstown Concourse. Crosstown Concourse is 1,500,000 square feet. It's the size of the Empire State Building on its side. It is a community of New Thought High School, artist in residency, healthcare for 80,000, teaching kitchens, performance theaters, listening libraries with 60,000 vinyls. And I am blessed enough that they welcomed me into their community, and I've opened my first SriMati wine and cheese cafe. I do have a couple Australian wines on the menu. And we are just starting to be there in the community and to serve the cheese to this community in Memphis and see them freaking out. It's just a dream come true. It's beyond. But so it's not just cheese in a box, it's all the other elements that we're touching as we go. But what I do want to mention, in alignment with your reading about the prana being taken from the food, what I did not understand until I became an initiate of Damanhur and started to be immersed in Falco's teaching is that one of the most powerful rituals that we have available to us as humans is through the ritual of food. And so I started cooking in prayer. I don't do catering, it's just too hard and not into it. But I do exclusive cooking in prayer. So I create an altar in the kitchen, calling in the elements, the nature spirits, and really infusing the food with the prana of this world through my heart. And the result is quite extraordinary. I have seen people weep. I have seen people feel a level of satiation, which is very, very deep. And we all have the power to enter into our kitchen temples. We are keepers of the flame. We kept the sacred flame of the home and the heart in the kitchen. So really bringing that energy into the food. Now, a lot of our food has been contaminated. It's been infiltrated. It's been screwed with. Of course, if we can grow it, it's best. Or if you can shop at Erewhon, it's best. Or shop at the farmer's market. But in addition to that, bringing the rituality and the sacred frequency of recognizing, making an offering plate to the nature spirits, which is something that I learned years ago in a tantric workshop here, where we're first creating the plate and taking it out to nature. All of these things are so, so, so powerful. I've been in a practice of building ceremonial fire. And from the very beginning, I've been feeding SriMati to the deity fire, the fire deity. And miraculous things have happened, both in my financial rounds, in the formulation of the cheese, because I'm inviting the winds, the waters, the trees, the nature elements, the devas into the cheese. So, investors ask me, can this cheese be copied? And I say, no, like it's a living thing. It's a life form on its own. And so SriMati is a ritual, has become a ritual. And again, my life led me there through a series of organic movements that were relevant to me in the now moment. So if you're looking for a trajectory or a prediction, look in the now moment. We just talked about simultaneous lifetimes, multidimensional lifetimes. Yes, and remember, the lifetime you're living now is the most important one. This is the one that's alive, breathing in this realm where there is a line of souls trying to get in here. It's like we have the VIP seats. There's something going that has not gone on ever before, and we're here for it. And it's happening within, around us, and through us. And so remember how sacred your life is, how precious your life is. And this bringing me to my question, Tara, in my chart. So I'm at a point where I have a very deep core wound of my life that also was from an Egyptian lifetime, where I was an oracle of that time, a very powerful oracle, and I was betrayed by the controllers and my friends, my colleagues, and they tried to take my power from me. I had my head cut open while I was alive in a temple in a theater. And so, even in the culture, even in the space that we know each other, I have only given a certain amount of myself. I have given, just enough that I'm sort of in, but I'm not really, really in. And so, what's sitting with me now is I'm facing this betrayal, and recollecting this past, which you opened the podcast with, is sharing your own experience in order to transform the now and the future, right? Bringing it all into the now. And so I wanted to ask you, looking at my chart of those placements, do you see that
Mm.
uh, demonstrated there? And is there anything else that you can offer me as this work that you do? I want people to know how powerful it is, and how working with you and working with someone like Tara can give you so much inspiration and good information so that you can make appropriate action at appropriate times.
Mm. I love that so much. Thank you, Julie. Yeah, the first thing that I noticed when I looked at your chart is I mentioned that your rising in the Vedic system is Libra. And the first thing that I thought about was the Egyptian times, which is very interesting because Libra is seen as the scales, and that is just a interpretation that we're used to seeing the Libra as the scales. But going back to the Egyptian times, the scales weighing the heart against the feather. And when I was looking at your chart, it's very much this quest of going, helping others with their balance in life. So, balancing both their inner world and their outer world. And so they can come to that reclamation of the heart and the feather and the weighing of the soul, and being able to go on this. Having that. So that was like at the core of what I was looking at when I was seeing your chart. And then the other layers was where you are right now, Julie, is an incredibly powerful time. And you might have noticed the shift. You've only, from the 5th of December, shifted into a new Dasha point. And so, yeah, and as I was reading that and looking at that, it's a different energy frequency that you're now entering into. And I see it as being such a incredibly powerful time for you. And I'm just so excited to see, because what I see is, really, really beautiful.
Thank you. Well, it's profound because December 5th is when my mom
Mm.
dropped her body, was on that day. And what is the dasha that I'm in now?
So you are now in Sun Moon.
I'm in Sun Moon dasha.
Yes. And so I
Okay.
just love going back to the polarity as well, going back to the scales, the sun and the moon, and having that beautiful polarity, being able to see it all, hold it all, the masculine, the feminine energy. And so, yeah, it's an incredibly powerful time for you.
So beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you, Tara. I hope I get to hug you in person someday soon. Oh, I'm coming to Australia.
Are you? I was
City are
great.
you in?
I'm in Perth, Western Australia. Where are you, where are you heading to?
I'm going to be in Byron.
Oh, of course you are.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I'll definitely have to come over. Do you know your dates yet?
There's a good possibility that I'll be there early February for like 10 days.
Oh, wow.
Say that like February 1st to 10. Well, let's message each other and we'll figure out, we'll clarify what that is, but that's about what it's looking like. Like maybe February 4th to February 15th, something like that.
Amazing. Oh, that's so incredible. Thank you so much for your time, Julie. I feel that this conversation is just going to be so expansive, and I love everything that you shared, especially at the end with your cheese. And it's interesting because I'm seeing more and more people outsourcing the cooking process, and I often think, with my husband, I'm like, how can I support him the most? And it always comes back to food and how my consciousness is in. So I love that you shared that as well.
It's beautiful. Aw, thank you so much, Tara. It's
Thank
just an
you.
honor, and I hope to share more life with you.
Thank you so much, Julie. Thanks for tuning into Starbeing. May the wisdom shared resonate in your soul. Until next time, stay connected and keep reaching for the stars. This is Starbeing signing off.